But let me know if you've got like an what happened? Hey everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my February haul. There's a lot here today. I have stacks. Yes, plural. Stacks over here, and I'm sitting down because I know this is going to take forever and I really don't want to be standing for this. So we're just gonna take this chill. We're gonna make a chill video today. I'll leave everything I can linked down below, but we have just a good chunk here. I was doing okay. And then I went to the bargain book warehouse near us, and yeah, there's just no excuses is what's happening over here. So I have quite a few here. Some of these are not for me, some of these are for my husband. So we've got a lot here to talk about. So let's just dive right in. So the first book that we picked up is actually one for my husband, and that is this one, which is called The Violin Conspiracy, and this is by Brendan Slocum, I believe is how you pronounce that. And this is it sounds fascinating, honestly. My husband is currently reading it, so I can't wait to hopefully dive in once he's done. But it follows this man who wants to be a violinist, and it follows him throughout his life, just trying to make ends meet, when he discovers that the violin that he has had his entire life, like his great-great-grandfather's violin, is actually a very well-known, high-priced violin. And so on the eve of his audition for the Tchaikovsky competition, the Olympics of classical music, his violin gets stolen, and there's a note for $5 million in ransom to get it back. And so he has to piece this together. But also he's a black man in America, and it seems like the family that unfortunately owned his great-great-grandfather when he was a slave is claiming this violin. And so there just seems to be a lot of stuff going on here as far as this violin and just some race relations that are happening around it. But it sounds like it's going to be super interesting. I'll have to see what my husband thinks once he finishes this. But we picked this one up because of NPR. That's what we do in this house. NPR decides everything. The next one is another one for my husband, and that is How to Be Perfect, The Correct Answer to Every Moral Question by Michael Schur, and that is the creator of The Good Place. He's also one of the creators of The Office and like a few other shows. Superstore, I think he was the creator of Superstore. A lot of the kind of half-hour sitcoms that have done really, really well. My husband's a huge fan of nonfiction as well as nonfiction when it relates to things he likes, like The Office. So we picked this one up for him. Alright, the next few, I bought that on like Barnes & Noble, and so I got a couple of romances along with that. And the first one I picked up was The Love Hypothesis, and this is by Ali Hazelwood. I have heard so many good things about this. I believe this came out last year sometime, but it's a romance that follows a woman in STEM, which is incredible. Yeah, it came out in 2021. This follows a third-year PhD candidate named Olive, and she doesn't believe in love, but her best friend does, and so she kind of she basically says like, yeah, no, of course, I've totally got a boyfriend. And her best friend's like, no, proof, show me. And so she grabs the closest person to her and kisses them, and that person is Adam, who is, according to this young hotshot professor, and well-known ass. So he is not the best person, but she just grabs him, and as I'm assuming what this cover is, and then he agrees to go along with the charade, and it's their relationship. I've seen a couple of like Star Wars references and jokes on the back, so I'm excited about all of the nerdiness that's going to be in this book. But I've heard really, really, really good things about this, so I decided to finally pick it up. And I hope to get to this one soon, because I could always use a good romance. And then the other one that I picked up is one that I looked at it and then I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's one of those that like you look at it, you're like, there's no way I mentioned that, and then like it just kind of stays in your brain. And that is Lockdown on London Lane, and this is by Beth Reekles, I believe. This is a romance that is reminiscent of COVID and like that whole quarantining situation. It doesn't say anything on the back that says it's specifically related to that, but it does take place in this apartment complex that they're quarantining for a hot second. There's like a little piece of paper that's slid under each of their doors, and the entire building has to quarantine itself. And so it follows a bunch of people in this building, and there's a bunch of romances, and like there's like 4 or 5 different couples that we follow that are in this building that has been shut down. So I'm very curious about that. I'm sure this is going to not be for everyone, especially with the entire world still heavily dealing with COVID-19, but the idea of this sounded interesting, and I'm curious to see all of these different relationships when they're stuck in one place and like what comes from that, because usually when you put a bunch of people in one room and they're stuck there, some things happen, and I'm curious what that's going to be. So I picked this one up. I don't know, it just sounded interesting. I don't know. There's something about it that's calling to me. The next book is what stemmed the next 7, honestly. So I picked up, I went to the bookstore to buy it specifically, and then I walked out with it and the next like 7 books, but that is Incense and Sensibility, and this is by Sonali Dev. This is the 3rd in her Rajay's series, the first one being Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors. They're actually both right back there. I read the first one last month. I'll talk about it more in my wrap up, but I read the first one last month. Just picked it up just to see if I could start the series finally, see if I liked it, to see if I would want to pick up more from the series, because I only had 2 at the time. And then I've plowed through all of them and read this one as well. So this series follows a family called the Rajays, and each book is a different couple's romance, and each one is very loosely based on a Jane Austen book. So the first one was Pride and Prejudice, the second one was Persuasion, and this one is Sense and Sensibility. And this one in particular follows the oldest son, which is Yash Rajay, and he has a very traumatic incident at the beginning of this book, and so he seeks out an old flame who has a yoga studio and is really into the practice of healing and that kind of thing. Helped one of his cousins with stress management, so he goes to her to hopefully help him out, because he's been dealing with some traumatic, just some like PTSD of sorts based on this event that happens. So I was very interested in this one and really adored it, so I'll talk about this more in my wrap up. But yeah, I picked this one up because I'd finished the other 2 and I needed to know, so I have them now. And so while I was at my little local Books-A-Million store, I found the rest of the Wallflower series, so I picked it up. So I have the 3rd one, which is Devil in Winter. I read it in January, but I have the first one, which is Secrets of a Summer Night, the second one, which is It Happened One Autumn, and the 4th one, which is Scandal in Spring. It basically follows 4 friends in this friend group, and they're each of their respective romances, and as you can tell, each of them are based on a season. So I loved the 3rd one, Devil in Winter, quite a bit. That I'm most interested in Scandal in Spring, and then the other 2 I'm also interested in as well, but this one, I don't know, it's just calling to me the most. But I did really, really enjoy the 3rd one, and I wanted to get my hands on the rest of them, and they have these stunning covers that are very, I don't know, they're reminiscent of like older covers. They're so pretty, but I'm obsessed with them. So yeah, I picked each of them up. They're each respective romances in this series. And now I have the entire series, and so now I need to read them all. But yes, so I did pick up the rest of those. And then as I was quite literally walking almost out the door, I was about to go to the check register, I saw this book, which is the first in a 4-book series, and they had them all, and I picked them all up, and that is the Smythe series by Julia Quinn. So the Smythe girls are part of the Bridgerton universe. This is not part, like these 4 are very spread out as far as I think timelines go, but these girls and this institution that surrounds this family is definitely mentioned in the Bridgertons, and so I had to pick it up. So we have the first one, which is Just Like Heaven, and we have A Night Like This, and then we've got The Sum of All Kisses, and then The Secret of Sir Richard Kenworthy. Kenworthy, and I believe this one actually does connect to the Bridgerton books in some way. But the first one right here on the cover, it says, "The Bridgertons know the Smythe Smiths do you." And that's what grabbed my attention, and I was like, excuse me, there's a book that's part of this universe? And so I looked it up and I realized that it was one of 4 and they were all right there. So I picked them up because I am obsessed with the Bridgerton series. I have 1 book left to go and I'm honestly putting it off at this point because I don't want it to end. But now that I've got these that I can look forward to, I am very excited because I have really adored Julia Quinn's writing. I have absolutely loved my time reading the Bridgerton books, and I'm very excited to see more in this kind of universe that she's got going on. So, yes, I picked up these 4 because I have a problem. The next book that I picked up is the 2nd volume of If It's For My Daughter, I'd Even Defeat a Demon Lord, which I believe is a 10-volume manga series, but I really enjoyed the first one quite a bit, and I can't find these anywhere except for online, so no matter what bookstore I go into, I can never find any of these. So I did order this online, so I do have a second one to go into. I adored the first one. I thought it was super cute, and I can't wait to get into this one. But it basically follows this guy who is an adventurer, which is apparently a job in this world. I don't even know what it is, but it's a job in this world, and he runs across this little girl who is demon. She's got little horns under these bows, and she's all on her own, and so he takes her home to kind of take care of her, and the first volume at least is just her getting used to his life, the human world, kind of having a guardian of sorts. So I'm curious to see where we're going to go in this one, because the first one was just so cute setting up this little family, but I'm sure there's going to be a much bigger overarching plot that will start in this one. But I did pick this one up just to start that collection, because that's going to be my next, I think, series to collect after Dreaming Sun, once I did finish that one. So yeah, I did pick this one up, but they're so tiny. I feel like I get through these so quickly, and I adored the first one, so I can't wait to dive into this one. I've got a couple of pre-orders coming up here. The first one is the paperback version of The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This one came out in paperback earlier in the month, and if you ordered it through like one of the indie bookstores, I was able to get it signed by the author. Isn't that just so freaking cute? I am very excited. But this is their most recent release. It came out last year, and I've been putting off buying it because all of the other books that I have by them are in paperback, and it feels weird to have a hardback. So I put off buying this one, but then I realized that the paperback was coming out this year. So then I put it off for a reason. But this one follows a single mom named Jessica, and she takes, like, there's this app out there that I believe is called the Soulmate Equation. I believe that is what the app is called, and it's a DNA-based matchmaking app. And so she, I think, somehow gets roped into or decides to do this, and she matches with the guy who created the whole thing. So basically, she gets roped into this big media blitz about the fact that, like, oh my god, it worked for the owner, it's gonna work for you, and that kind of thing. And I don't think that they actually liked each other at the beginning, but I think there's more to come from that. And just this idea of that DNA-based matchmaking thing, I think is going to be kind of cute. So I love Christina Lauren, and I can't wait to dive into this one at some point. I then picked up a couple of middle grade books that came out, well, at least this one came out this year, and that is A Storm of Sisters, and this is the 4th book in the Pinch of Magic series by Michelle Harrison. I don't know a lot about this one, but this one takes place in the cold place because it says a frozen town called Wilderness promises adventure. A ghostly legend of a fortune teller, a highwayman, and a stolen crystal ball. 3 sisters with a mystery to solve as an icy storm races around them. So it's just the 3 sisters again having an adventure. And I've loved the books in this series. I think they're so much fun. I read the 2nd one last month, and I can't wait to dive into the 3rd one so that maybe I can dive into this one soon. But her storytelling is incredible, especially with these sisters. It's just whimsical fun. Honestly, I just get roped in very quickly. So this one came out earlier this month, I want to say, so I got my hands on that one. And then I also got my hands on One Wish by Michelle Harrison, which apparently is a prequel of sorts to the 13 Treasures series that I own by her and have been reading. So I don't actually know a whole lot about what this one's about, but I do know it follows our main character Tanya, and I think it's the first time she meets someone else who can see fairies, because in this series we follow Tanya who can see fairies, and it's set in this world where like that's not a good thing, and then she gets sent to go live with her grandmother for like a couple of weeks during the summer, and adventure ensues and things happen. So this is a prequel for that series. So I'm very excited about this one, but I didn't know it existed, and in this beautiful cover that like matches kind of the other editions, it's just this beautiful illustrated cover, and I'm obsessed with UK covers of middle grade. I think they're amazing. But yes, so I picked this one up because I was shook that I didn't even know it existed. And now I have it. So everything is right with the world again. So the next book is actually one that my husband gifted me for, what do we call it? Valiversary, I think is what it is we celebrate Valentine's Day later because we started dating the week after Valentine's Day. So when we were like in college, we didn't never celebrate Valentine's Day. We celebrated it the week after. So we've kind of just kept that tradition going. So for Valentine's Day anniversary gift, I was gifted Anatomy, a love story by Dana Schwartz, which I actually now own 2 copies of because I got this in a subscription box last month, unfortunately, but I'm passing it along to one of my friends who I think will really enjoy it. But he got it because the author of this book is actually engaged to one of the writers of The Tonight Show with, oh no, he's actually like one of the writers, maybe a producer, on The Tonight Show, or not The Tonight Show, but The Late Late Show with James Corden, and so he got it based on the author. So it sounds super interesting, it sounds super gothic, but we follow our main character, Hazel, who wants to be a surgeon more than she wants to marry, but of course it's set at a time when that was not accepted, and so she really wants to go to the Royal Edinburgh Anatomists Society. That was a really hard word for me to say. But because she's a female, they don't let her in. But she does strike a bargain with the guy who leads the class, I believe, or the director or something. That basically, if she can go take the test. He'll let her take the test, but she can't come to any of his lectures. So she has to go learn on her own. And books are not enough for her. So she strikes a bargain with her friend, Jack, who basically soaks around cemeteries and digs up bodies for reanimation. So she kind of teams up with him so that she can study these bodies before he does stuff with them. But I think some weird stuff starts happening because there's going to be an adventure of sorts. But I'm very, very interested in this story, and I love the cover because obviously it's like a girl in a dress, but it's in the shape of a heart. I just think that's so cool. And it's giving me Chasing Jack the Ripper vibes, whatever that book series by Carrie Maniscalco is. I don't know, the synopsis is giving me those vibes. So I'm very interested to read this one at some point. But yes, it is a beautiful gift that my husband gave me, and I'm very excited to dive into it at some point. I then got my pre-order of The Monarchs by Cass Morgan and Daniel Page. This is the sequel to The Ravens, which I read last September. I think it was September, maybe it was October. But this, like I said, is the sequel in this duology, and I adored the first one so much. So I'm really glad that I got my pre-order, because I did do it through, I can't remember what the place was called, but it was the same place I got last time, and I was able to get it signed by both of the authors, which is why it took so long to get to me. But I'm not upset because I'm probably not going to get around to this one until the fall anyway. It just gives me those spooky vibes, and I adored reading it in the fall, so I think I'm going to put it off until the fall again. But this, at least the first book, follows this sorority on campus called the Ravens, and it is a sorority that's actually made up of witches, and it's actually a coven, but a lot of people who aren't in the sorority just think that they're very picky about who they invite in, and the people who are in the sorority know they're in the sorority because of witches. And so the first book follows 2 different women, are kind of going through, one of them is pledging and one of them is the pledge master, and this follows after the events of the first book, and I believe a rival sorority comes in and some weird things start happening. So I'm not really sure what to expect with this one, but I adored, like I said, I adored the first one. So I'm really glad that I got this one. And then my most exciting book of all time, of ever, oh my goodness, is my copy of House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I am beyond stoked. I'm actually currently in the process of reading this with one of my friends. She's my person I go to when I talk about anything Sarah J. Maas. But like this book, I know everyone says it, but this book is huge. I mean, it technically page-wise is smaller than my first book, but at least my copy has really thin pages, so this one is like regular paper, and it's very thick. But I adored the first book in the Crescent City series, and you guys know this. I reread it last month to prepare for this one, and I have a lot of feelings, but I've seen a lot of people's reactions to this book, and I'm honestly terrified to get to the end. Not gonna lie. But this, basically, the first book in this series follows a half fae, half human named Bryce, and she basically gets roped into trying to figure out this mystery of these mysterious deaths that are happening in the city, and she gets teamed up with a fallen angel named Hunt, kind of helping her out with this investigation, but also as kind of a bodyguard of sorts, because she's gonna be getting herself into some not so great situations. But this is the continuation of the series, and I am so excited and so scared all at the same time. So hopefully I'll be able to finish this one relatively soon. But isn't she so pretty? I just can't get over this. Most excited book ever. Okay, so the next almost everything except for the very last book, it came from that bargained warehouse that I was talking about. So I'll quickly go through the ones that my husband picked up, because honestly, I don't know what any of them are about. So the first one is But Seriously, and this is by John McEnroe, who is a tennis player. So it's a memoir, biography, I think it's a memoir of sorts, following him. And my husband is a huge sports guy, a huge memoir person, so we have a lot of sports memoirs, so we'll just be adding that to the list. And then we have this one, which is Go for the Gold, and it's a champion's guide to winning in soccer and life by Mia Hamm. So again, another sports memoir of sorts. And then we've got Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling, which I used to have a paperback copy of this, and I somehow got rid of it. I think when I moved in with my husband, like right before we got married. I feel like that's somewhere in there we missed it. It like disappeared, but he really wanted this as well, so we have a hardback copy that now matches the first memoir, which I haven't read, by her, that we do actually own. But she's an actress, producer, writer, fanatic, amazing human, and I really enjoyed this book. But we have a copy of that one now. And then we also have a copy of Food, A Love Story by Jim Gaffigan, which is a stand-up comedian that both me and my husband really, really adore. But I would say that me and my brother-in-law are probably more obsessed with him than my husband is. But we have one memoir by him at this point, but this is a different one, and I don't know what it's going to be about, but I love him and he's funny. So we now own that one. And then we've got this book, which is The Best Game Ever by Mark Bowden, and I don't even know what this is. Giants versus Colts in 1958 and the birth of the modern NFL. So it follows a game and the NFL, so more sports. And so the last one I picked up is this one, which is called Football's Strangest Matches by Andrew Ward, and it is just a collection of strange stories about soccer. It says right here, extraordinary but true stories from over a century of football, aka soccer. So all the sports things, all of them. And then I picked up a couple of memoir of sorts. They're actually both by Alison Weir. So we have this one, which is The Life of Elizabeth I, which I don't have any nonfiction memoirs about her. I've got a lot of like Tudor things, and I've got a lot of things about like Jane Austen and other people, but I don't have quite a lot about her. And I've heard that Alison Weir is a very good writer. She writes both nonfiction and fiction, and honestly she reminds me a lot of Philippa Gregory, because she is a historian in her own right that just happens to write fictional stories as well. This one just happens to be a nonfiction one, and it follows the entire life of Elizabeth I. And it's quite a chunk, so I expect to learn some things about Elizabeth that I did not know the first time. So I'm very excited to pick that one up at some point. And then she also had one about Eleanor of Aquitaine, and I I don't know a whole lot about who this is, but she is one of the great heroines of the Middle Ages, and so I'm curious to see her story. Again, I don't know anything about her. She's a name that I've heard floating around as far as like a historical name, but I don't know anything about her. But again, Alison Weir, I've heard she's a fantastic writer, so I did pick that one up as well. And of course, I couldn't leave without picking up a couple of little historical fictions, and I did pretty good. I did actually quite well leaving this one. So I picked up one Joanna Lindsey book, which is A Gentle Feuding, and this one is a Scots tale, I want to say. Yeah, something about, I read the back. It was like 10 cents. I read the back and I saw Scottish and layered, so that's really all I've got. But it seems like it's going to be feuding clans, and I just love a good Scottish story. Also, this cover is stunning. So yeah, I love Joanna Lindsey. It's one of her relatively short books, but it's the first book I've bought in a while that's not a Mallory book. What I can get from the back is it follows two feuding clans. We've got Sheena, who is the daughter of one of the lairds, and she is basically like, I wouldn't say forced, but almost forced to wed the laird of the feuding clan, and it's the two of them and their love for each other. I really hope that you can't hear Chris clapping. So, two feuding clans who make a truce via a marriage. So, I love a good Scottish story. And then I picked up a beautiful, I swear, I find the most stunning Lisa Kleypas books at this place. And it's Someone to Watch Over Me. And it's got this absolutely stunning step back. I can't even get over it. However, I did pick up a copy of this a few months ago. And I'm just really bad at not knowing what I actually own. But this cover was prettier, and it was only like 90 cents. So, I got it, and I'm not upset. But this one, I don't know what it's about either. I picked it up for the cover. This is purely a cover buy. So this one basically follows a woman who basically has forgotten who she is. She wakes up one day after being saved from the Thames River, and everyone says that she is this woman named Vivian, who's one of London's most scandalous beauties, but she is almost positive that that is not who she is. But she's being protected by this man named Grant Morgan, who is pretty sure that she's also not this person that everyone thinks that she is. So I think it's going to be their romance between the two of them. But like, seriously, this cover, oh my goodness, I can't, they're so pretty. And then the last book that I picked up that was one of the historical romances was Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. They finally had it. This is one of my favorite books. I mean, like, seriously, one of my favorite romances, and it's up there as far as like one of my favorite books. But this is one of the first books that this is the first book that I buddy read with my friend Taylor. Started off our historical romance buddy reading that just kind of like spiraled, and now we do all of the things, and I couldn't be happier. But this one is the first in the Montgomery and Armstrong series, and we follow our main character, Evelyn, who is basically being, again, not forced, but kind of forced to marry the laird of the rival clan. They've had this rivalry for years, and the king has stepped in and said, look, y'all two are marrying, so this can stop. And so she does, and she's really worried about going over there because everyone thinks that she is daft. But she's not. She's just deaf. So she can read lips, so she can follow along with the conversation pretty well, but she can't hear. And so it's her time in this rival laird's keep of sorts, and it's just the two of them. And seriously, like, I've already gone in and tabbed all of the scenes that I loved because, like, I am obsessed with this book. It is so good. And if you like anything about what I just said, please pick it up. But I finally have my own copy, and I could not be more excited about it. Yeah, it's a good day. I then found 3 volumes of this manga called After Hours, and this is by Yuta Nishio. I picked it up because it sounded interesting. They had all 3 there, and I didn't discover until I got home that this is a 3-volume manga. Like, this is it. There's no more. I somehow picked up the entire thing without even meaning to, which is kind of cool. But we follow a 24-year-old named Emmy, and she's trying to get her life together, but I think she meets someone in a club one night, and that just kind of like starts off like a friendship or a romance of sorts, and I think it's about finding yourself. Again, not 100% sure. The back is a little vague, but it just sounded really interesting, and I liked what I just read, and I flipped through it and it looked pretty cool, and they had more than one volume there, which is always a plus to me. Again, I can't believe this is it, and I just picked everything up. But yeah, so I picked up all 3 of these, so I'll hopefully get to this one at some point soon. It's nice to know that this is it, that it's not like a very long series I have to dedicate a lot of time to, but it's another one that I have picked up. I don't know, it just looked kind of fun, and I like the covers, and I can't tell, but a possibly female romance? I mean, I might be all kinds of wrong on that, but I don't know. We'll see. Sounded good, so I picked it up. And the last one I picked up at this warehouse was this one, which was The Mad Woman Upstairs by Catherine Lowell. And this one follows a girl named Samantha, and she is part of the Bronte family. And the Brontes are supposed to have left this grand estate with letters and a hidden fortune and like unfinished works of art and like novels that haven't been finished. But Samantha has seen none of it. And so everyone assumes that she has access to these grand things, and she doesn't see any of it. But she does go to Oxford, and so when she gets there, things start showing up. So it seems like a mystery of sorts that revolves around the Bronte family, and I'm very interested in that. And there's just something about the Brontes that really fascinates me. So I picked this one up. It just sounded so good. So yeah, I can't wait to see what mysterious things this has in store for me. And then the very last book that I picked up this month was Heidi's Guide to 4-Letter Words by Tara Sivek and Andy Arnst. This is one of the books that I read in that secret TBR that I did at the end of the month, my episode 2 of BookTube Made Me. I read this book on Audible. I, again, highly recommend reading the audiobook of this, but I picked it up on Audible, proceeded to then buy the ebook because I loved it so much, to then proceeded to buy the physical book, because I loved it so much and I've tabbed it already. I mean, just seriously, so much fun. But we follow a girl named Heidi, who's been a teacher her entire life and has been just let go because her school system is struggling a little bit. There's been a hiring freeze, so they had to let some people go, and she just happened to be one of them. And so she ends up taking a desk job, kind of a front desk assistant, secretarial kind of position at this recording studio. And this recording studio records audiobooks for erotic novels. And so she is put in like the middle of everything and is really surprised. And then one night they are getting rid of some podcast equipment and basically says, throw it away, keep it, whatever you want to do, just get rid of it. And so she ends up taking it home and starting a podcast. And the episode, like seriously, this is so much fun because you have chapters of her ridiculous life, and then you've got, in between those chapters, you've got the episodes of the actual podcast of her sharing her life on the internet. And it's really just her trying to find herself and get the, I don't even know what the right word is, the confidence to do the things that she wants to do, because she's got a neighbor that she thinks is super cute and won't even go up to talk to him. And so it's that, and also like finding her own with her family, because her mom really wants her to be a teacher because she was a teacher, and so she's never thought twice about not being a teacher, and now she's having to think a little bit about what she actually wants. And so I don't know, it was good, y'all, okay? If you haven't read it yet, what is wrong with you? Please pick this up. But I have my own physical copy because I have a problem and I am obsessed, and I have reread all of the cute scenes like 5 times now. So yeah, I had to get my own physical copy because I love it so much. It's now one of my favorites. But that is it. Those are all of the books that I picked up in February. This was a list. There's a lot here. But let me know down below if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video. I would love to know your thoughts, or something that you have picked up recently. What is like an anticipated release that you've got for the year? Because mine was obviously Crescent City 2, but let me know if you've got an anticipated release coming your way, or has already come out. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all of that out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!